Hello, hello. Coming at you live after like 3 weeks. It's been a brutal, hectic 3 weeks to be honest. There was traveling, and then there was sick, and then there was traveling, and then there was this past week I've been like hella sick. I got some kind of stomach bug, and I'm so tired, dude. I'm down for the count, but made it through the week. I managed to finally get all my cleaning done because this whole week I've been like stupid sick and I haven't had any energy or any like whatever energy I had, I made it into work, and then I got home and I ate what I could and I went to bed. It was this nasty, nasty stomach bug. But I'm alive, and I'm here to talk about a movie that I watched that I mentioned it in my project when I reviewed Project Hail Mary. There's my cat, by the way. Frankie's making his guest appearance. Um, but I will initially, right, like when I made that review, I specifically said that another movie that I wanted to talk about was the Backrooms movie because I saw that too. Hold on, don't mind me. Just turning my fan on. Um, and now I'm feeling better. I'm not super busy, and I'm ready to talk about it. Hydration. Um, so the Backrooms. So I initially saw it when it came in a couple weeks ago on opening night. I went with one of my best buds, Jay, Splinker Cup. He's who I game with all the time. And I went with him because, at least for him, he said he wasn't as excited to see the movie until he started really seeing the trailer and like started getting into it and stuff. I was extremely excited to see it. I'm pretty aptly familiar with Kane's video series. I used to do every weekend in high school. I used to do bad game nights with some of my best friends, and we would just play all these like shitty horror games. And a lot of the times though, we would just like hop on and play the Backrooms games, and we played them like religiously. Escape the Backrooms, um, Backrooms Escape Together, and then the third one, but I'm blanking on the name. Inside the Backrooms Escape Together, and then just Escape the Backrooms, yeah. And so they're all really similar, obviously, but just different in their own ways. But like we used to play them all the time and had a ton of fun. And so when I saw the trailer a couple months ago that came out, oh, my other cat's there now too. Hey guys, hi. Um, but when I but yeah, so when I saw that trailer a couple months ago, I got really, really excited about it, and I was stoked to see it come on the big screen. And so Jay, he came over. We headed to the theater right next to my place, and it was packed. I mean, like that theater. So I live in a pretty big metropolitan area. Um, that theater's dead as fuck. Like for where it is, it's this massive theater. It's massive in there, and it's dead most of the time. And so, but Jay bought our tickets online just to be safe, and we bought the tickets the day prior, by the way. So the night prior, we were sitting playing games at 9 p.m. and he was like, "Dude, like, do you want to go see this movie together tomorrow?" And I was like, "Dude, yeah, I just haven't had time to think about it." And we got the tickets the night before, and the theater was like empty. It was mad. It was a big theater, but it was completely empty. And so then we so we walk into this theater, and keep in mind our showing was for what, like 8, 9, I think it was like 9:15 p.m. was our showing. And so we go into this theater, and as we're walking up, it's like the ticket stand, like the whole thing is like jam packed. There's like a line almost to the door, and it's a huge theater. And that's the first time that I've been in a theater that packed since fucking Endgame, dude. It was crazy. It was completely stuffed. And it was so cool to like be a part of that again. Like, and it was all for this movie, because when we went and we sat down, that whole theater was like occupied. And so it was just a really cool thing to see. And so the whole experience of going to see it, I also just wanted to touch on. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that this kind of cult classic was so fun for so many people, and that so many people were going to this theater, man. It was just a really cool experience. And so that's kind of setting the scene. So I was really excited to see this movie. Obviously, like for I'd wanted to, or not wanted to see a movie like this for years, but I saw that it got announced as a movie, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be awesome. And it was my most anticipated of year movie of the year so far. Um, and I've seen it once, and then I re-saw it, and after rewatching it, I initially when I walked out of that theater, I thought that that movie was like a 9 out of 10. I thought it was amazing, and I still think super highly of it. However, I definitely think it's more of like a 7 out of 10 after the rewatch. For some specifics that I'll get into, but general movie, right? There is this um like washed architect basically named Clark, and he owns a furniture store and he sells furniture. He's Captain Clark. That's his, retail persona kind of thing, right? That's his store. It's the his Ottoman Empire is what he calls it. It's pretty good. And so the story of the movie is essentially Clark is this narcissist and he's seeing a therapist about the night that his wife kicked him out of his own home, right? Or their home together that he was paying for. It becomes a big thing later on. And so essentially you in the opening scene is this found footage of the Backrooms, which isn't anything new. We've seen that before. It was cool to see it on the big screen, but nothing we haven't seen before. But then as that opening scene, you kind of learn that Clark is very deeply disturbed and upset by his wife kicking him out because he believes that he's done nothing wrong and that he's where he is because he's stuck paying for her school so she can go to school and then do what she wants to do in life, and he can't be an architect because he has to work this job to pay for that. And it's really interesting. I think he's a phenomenal actor. Um, and so it's really interesting. And then the therapist is also a really interesting character as well. So you get pretty familiar with her too. Her kind of deals that she's been deeply traumatized since she was a kid. They don't touch too much on that. Um, just that it's still very much affecting her. But she becomes a psychiatrist with like selling the belief, not the belief, but like selling the idea, like selling all these like audiobooks and stuff that like if you deal with your past traumas, you can finally break free, open the window, right? And like become who you're supposed to be, like become like be yourself, like you're no longer tied to something holding you down, keeping you anxious, like keeping you from blooming. And so that's kind of like the whole idea of this movie, right? The Backrooms, I'm getting ahead of myself, but like so essentially afterwards, right, Clark he's sleeping in the store because of the altercation he had with his wife. There's tons of theories and stuff out there as to like who some of the like he murdered his wife and whatnot. And I don't really care to delve too much into those theories right now. It's more just like what the meat and bones of the movie was. And so anyway, so then he's sleeping in his store. He calls this mechanic, electrician. He calls an electrician, and he's saying like, "Hey, there's these weird power outages in the store. Sometimes at night, like I'll completely lose power. I'll come check the breaker, nothing's wrong. Or sometimes like I'll have too much power. Like he's saying that something is wrong, and so the electrician comes checks it out and is like, "Dude, you're good." And so then one night he's in the store, and he has the TV on and he's sleeping on one of the display mattresses and beds, and um, it's it's like funny because like that's just so goofy, bro. Like I remember when like it showed that he was like sleeping in that bed in the theater, the whole theater was like, "Oh." Like it was tough. But anyway, so he's watching TV and then the TV cuts to like a little bit of footage of one of the async workers exploring the back rooms, and then it shuts off, the whole power goes out, and then the power downstairs like lights up. So he goes downstairs and then he goes into the back rooms. He discovers the back rooms that they're there, and so then he um is like so then anyway so he like spends this like long sequence, and it's a good long sequence, not in a bad way, but he spends this like long sequence kind of like wandering through the back rooms. At first he finds a little trap that or a little booby trap thing that the async workers set up. And if you're not really familiar with async, or like you're not familiar with the backroom stuff or whatever, like you don't really got to worry about it that much. It's just this company that like found the Backrooms first, basically. Is how you can think of them in this movie, right? But so like they set up this little thing because it looks like they're hunting something or keeping an eye on something, right? And it's this little monster that's revealed in the first like the opening found footage sequence of the movie. Anyway, so he spent some time in there. He he runs in, he takes a chair when he finds the exit again to like he's like, "Oh my God, that was real." And so then he goes back to his therapist and he's like, "No, you don't understand. Like I found this crazy place in the downstairs of the store, and it's huge." And so he borrows his assistant and her boyfriend, like he asks for their help to go explore because he needs the video camera that he's renting from his university. So then they rent this video camera and this is really cool. Oh, that's just the washer and dryer. I don't know why I thought I was hearing sounds, but then he has this like found footage sequence, right, where there's the video camera and they're going into the back rooms exploring, and this is where I think the movie's at its strongest. I think that this is like exactly what people wanted to see, or at least exactly what I wanted to see, right? I wanted some spooky found footage, good horror elements, and I think that this does a really good job. I think it's like it feels like you get so much that first time around. On the second watch, it's one of my complaints, like the sequences feel a lot shorter, and I think it's only because like you know what's gonna happen, so it's just automatically like you're not like that tenseness. You don't have like again, I that's what I my biggest complaint in the movie, and I'll do a little like I guess spoiler alert for that. Is like my biggest complaint in the movie is it's strongest when you don't know what's going on, and like maybe and that could be just like a stupid complaint, right? Because like duh, but like I just think that that means the rewatchability isn't as high because the dialogue is so disjointed in this movie that the first time you watch it, you're like, okay, well, it's supposed to be that way. Obviously, we don't know what's going on. Like, the dialogue is trying to tell us something while we're watching this movie. We can't figure it out quite yet. We don't really know till the end. And so it's like when I was rewatching it, I was like sitting there thinking about the dialogue and I was like, dude, whoa. This is like bad. Like it's not even like it's mysterious. Like it's just not good. Like some of the writing is just flat out kind of like eh. But anyway, so then that trip goes horribly wrong. Both the assistants, like the assistant and the boyfriend, like they die, and then he gets knocked out, and so then it cuts it back over to the therapist, and so then he gives the therapist a call, and he says like, "Yo, I've gone over the edge." So he goes to make a house call, like go check on him, and she shows up at his store, and it's kind of an like indiscriminate amount of time is like how much time has passed is kind of unclear, but I thought it was a couple of days. Some of my friends, because when I saw it that second time, some of them thought it was like months because of how much mail was under his door, which I didn't really pay that much attention to the first time, but that makes a lot of sense. So, um, it's just like I would assume a long period of time passed. Anyways, then she goes into the store looking for him, and that's when she also finds the back rooms, and she's like, okay. And so then Clark ends up going crazy, essentially, and ends up knocking like she finds Clark like deep in there basically, and he's kind of like hiding and shirking against a wall, and then he like knocks her out, and so then he goes crazy, and so then there's this really interesting dinner scene where like you mostly just get more of like who Clark is, like more of that narcissism, more of that like I don't really know how to describe it, to be honest. I had like a thought train, and I just lost it, got off at the station, but it's really good. Like it's pretty eerie for the most part, and just some of that dialogue is really weird. But it's kind of revealed that like the big entity in the back rooms is Captain Clark, right? It's this big dwarfed version of Clark, right? And so at first at the dinner table, it's just Clark and them, and you see these like random still lifes and stuff, and it was really good. It was really eerie, very uncomfortable the first time I watched it. I was like, whoa, you know. Um, and then essentially right after that, basically Clark is essentially telling this therapist like this is where like Clark's this is why I think Clark's character is like super interesting because he is a narcissist. And so in this exchange, she basically is like, dude, no, you are the fucking problem. I don't know how to help you. And he's like, I am the problem. I can change. And then he's like, but what if I don't want to change? And this is why I think the movie is just so good because it's a whole allegory. I think that the Backrooms movie is just one big allegory for mental health and trauma, basically. And the Backrooms is your memory bank, right? So like something traumatizing happened to you as a kid, or there's some big thing that you're scared of addressing, right? And so your brain shifts around that, right? And then also too, it's also just like that the whole quote from the movie, I really enjoy it, is like the more it remembers something, the less it does, right? Like it's the more times your brain tries to remember stuff, especially as you get older and over time, as you get new information, the less you remember it, and that's why these things become so distorted in this space, like in the Backrooms, right? And so, but there's also a lot of theories about how the Backrooms is just copying from the real world, so it's like 50-50, like an allegory for, I believe, mental health and trauma, and or just that in general, like going through and processing feelings and emotions, and also like a very, surreal, physical, visceral place you can be in that just tries to meekly copy things, right? But that's also what makes it so unique because in Clark's view, he's a narcissist. Nobody else can do wrong. And so because nobody else can do wrong, he doesn't really perceive people as having emotions or thoughts or like wills of their own. It's only kind of at his beck and call or his inconvenience. And so that's why the other entities can't really move. They can't feel stuff. Like at one point Clark just stabs one through the neck and he's like, "See? They don't feel anything." And I don't think it's my hoodie. And I don't think that that's like necessarily true. I don't think the copies can't feel anything. I think that they're like a manifestation of Clark's narcissism. And so then it's this big drastic moment where he's like, "Well, what if I don't want to change?" And then the therapist is like, "Well, fuck you, dude. Like you are the problem. You don't have to change." And he's like, "Okay, I don't have to." And then I'm also kind of just like spouting a lot of shit. Um, But like anyway, so then big Captain Clark comes into this dinner sequence, right? And he gets up and he's like, "Hey, buddy, this is the therapist joining for dinner." And you learn that they're like kind of coexisting together, like bad Clark and or not bad Clark, but like I don't really know what you would call him, like, but essentially, I guess Captain Clark and Clark, Captain Clark being the big bad guy. And so then Clark is trying to tell Captain Clark, "Hey, listen, we don't have to change. She said we're good. We don't have to do anything. And then that's when Captain Clark kills him. And I think there's a lot of symbolism in there, but it was just a really eerie scene. And then you get that big chase sequence at the end now where she is running, Mary, I believe is her name. She is running from Captain Clark. And that whole sequence I think is pretty awesome. I think the running is really great. I think that like the different like backroom settings that they go into are really cool. Like she leaves and it's a house on this like phony street, really eerie. She finds a door, she runs through it, and then it's like an endless. It's just really good. It's really good. And then finally the movie ends with big climactic showdown. Basically, it's back in Clark's Ottoman Empire, but just in the back rooms instead of the actual world. And she's fighting Captain Clark, and then she gets away, and Async finds her, and then Async also takes care of Captain Clark. Um, and so I think this is where the rewatch is where like I think my biggest complaint of the movie is I think Async should not have been present in this movie. I think that Async is trying to pay too much. I mean, I think although I heard him say in an interview that there's going to be more movies, so it makes sense why like it wouldn't be a standalone film. But I think if they were trying to like distinguish it and make it a standalone film on its own, I do not believe that Async should have been a part of this movie at all. I think that it should have just been a mental health thing, and I think they could have wrapped it up. I don't mean I'm not a movie, what I mean? Like I trust Kane because Kane has delivered some really great stuff, already, and he's like my age, he's 21, I think. Um, I just think that the movie would have done better as a standalone if it was just an allegory for mental health and there wasn't this massive company well established in it already, because the movie opens with them and ends with them, but like in between the movie has Async has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. And they have this one scene where on one of the cameras the Async worker sees Captain Clark and recognizes him from the ad and seeing him in the back rooms and is like, "Oh my god, I recognize him," but nothing like comes out of that. Like there's no cohesion there, and I think that like if the movie itself was trying to distinguish itself and become something different, I think that like Async shouldn't have been in it. I think it should have just been like a mental health thing, right, about Clark. Um and but he like but still really good. Like it's just a small complaint. And then the other complaint I have really is just the dialogue. I think like um I think that I just on the rewatch I was really disappointed with how like like stiff is a good word. It's like stiff dialogue, right? They try again when the movie plays really hard on a first watch, and I think on that first watch I left the theater and I was like, this is easily a 9 out of 10. Like I was like, I loved this movie, and I still really enjoyed the second watch. Like not to say I didn't really like it, I still really enjoy the movie. Like I'm a pretty harsh critic, is what I've been told, and I mean I agree, right? Like I'm pretty harsh on the stuff that I watch, but and a lot of my nitpicks are like nitpicks, right? That kind of like whatever. But I do think that my real serious complaint is I don't think async should have been part of the movie at all. I don't think they necessarily drag the movie down. I just don't really think they have any like real presence or momentum there. Um, and then it is the dialogue. I think on that first watch you won't notice, but like let's say you're like really excited to watch it again. I think that you'll notice the dialogue pretty heavy because it wasn't one of those things that I was kind of like watching it for the second time in the theater and I was like, oh, the dialogue is a little rough. It was like I remember watching it and I was sitting there like I was just chilling there and I remember watching some of the like the especially the dinner sequence and like leading up to the dinner sequence. I remember listening to this dialogue and I was like, man, man, like it's not like a typical like mystery movie where like the dialogue makes a lot more sense afterwards. No, it was like I was listening to this and I was like, I don't know, dude, it just wasn't like it shouldn't hit the same. But it's still a lovely film. I mean, I loved seeing it on screen. Highly recommend the movie. I mean, maybe a 7 out of 10 stars. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it. Still loved the rewatch. I loved that first watch. I had such a blast. Like it was so good. It's so good too. Like the set design was incredible. The music was awesome. I thought the sound design was really cool. Like the actual back rooms were incredible. Like it was so cool to see. I think that they could have done more. Um, and I think that there's just so many different ways to take this like this kind of concept, which I hope Kane continues to do. Like I would love just like a more like horror, like a more really like scary like narrative from like just a group of the async workers who are like going out there into the infinite void like they have, you know what I mean, like from async's perspective, like that would be really cool. I would like that a lot too. But I do think this movie is a pretty hefty slam dunk and a pretty hefty debut from Kane. I know that a lot of what I was saying was kind of like you know, like, oh, it's not that good. It was really good. Like, I recommend that you go watch it and have a blast. And I know a lot of what I said was pretty like incoherent in terms of like the actual plot. But just like go watch it, give it a try. You can't go wrong with this movie. It was incredible. It was such a fun watch. I think, yeah, I would say I'm pretty happy and I'm pretty settled on the idea of an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I think at least for me the rewatchability is a little bit lower purely because that dialogue was I thought it was pretty rough the second time around. But yeah, great movie. Had a blast. That's about it. See ya.